25th Hour Radio Show.
Hey, Larry, how's it going? This is Rob and Randy with the 25th Hour Radio Show.
Well, hey, going great.
How was your weekend, sir?
Well, we just moved, so brand new house, and a house, you know, half my life is in boxes, but I'm doing well.
Oh, that's got to be exciting for you, though.
Yeah.
Larry, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know your life has been all about music, but what started you on that path as opposed to maybe venturing into another field of expertise?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was about 10 years old, and piano as well. So I guess, you know, I was always a musician by training and passion. My college roommate's father owned the Milestone record label, and so when I moved to New York, first day at school, my roommate said, "Well, what do you listen to?" And I said, "Well, Dylan and the Beatles, of course." And he said, "Well, listen, let me tell you about Cannonball Adderley and Coltrane and Miles Davis." So we had this, he had a record collection that was, you know, wall to wall in the dorm room, and he educated me and introduced me to a dozen or so New York jazz musicians while I was there, including his father, who Dick Katz. And so that just kind of gave me a fork in the road, and I said, "Gee, I can like folk music and jazz, can't I?" And so. But it was after that, when I moved to Boston and went to work for a company called Kramer Hi-Fi, that I met a couple guys that were starting a recording school with the idea of getting training and building a recording studio. And our patron was a guy named George Lilly, whose great-grandfather founded the Lilly Drug Corporation. And I used to say, well, he wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. It was platinum.
Yeah.
So our platinum spoon buddy bought this Scully 8-track, and one of our class projects was to go down to the jazz workshop and record this new guy named Chick Corea.
Huge name right there.
So in 1971, I got to track 5 nights in a row with the Chick Corea Circle Band, and then about a month later, Sam Rivers Jr.'s trio, and some of those tracks actually made it on Hughes, an ABC Impulse album. And so I guess at that point my life was, you know, transformed, and music and recording became my twin, you know, paths, and I've sort of been doing both ever since. I mean, I spent 40-plus years recording jazz and classical ensembles, and I guess, flash forward to about 1978, I got to go work in a piano store and spent 16 lovely years representing the Steinway Company. And I guess that sort of set a metric for quality for me. And, you know, that passion for recording, I hope I'm not talking too much.
Oh, no, go ahead. That's fine.
I mean, I'm not a very good piano player, but being a recording engineer, I was able to walk into a room with 20 Steinways, and I could pick out the one that a jazz musician would like, and I could pick out one an opera singer would like, and I could pick out somebody who was playing Bach. But if you're into Rachmaninoff and, you know, Chopin, I just knew the exact piano for you. And so my life for 16 years was, I wasn't a very good salesman, I wasn't a very good piano player, but I could really listen to the customer and really listen to the piano. And I just considered myself a matchmaker. I'm trying to find the right tool for the right tone and the right type of music. And that sort of segues into children and family. And every weekend I was in this piano store, and my son was starting baseball games, and my daughter was doing piano recitals, and I was gone. And that just, the internet was just starting up, and by golly, I thought I'd start a microphone company. Who knew? So
yeah, so one of your colleagues, right, labeled you the poet laureate of piano salesmen. What'd you think about that moniker?
Well, you know, I studied poetry at Columbia University, and that's where, you know, I went to New York City the day after I graduated high school. I had a typewriter in one hand and I had a guitar in the other, and I had some extra underwear stuffed in the guitar case.
Wherever you can put it.
And so, you know, that who knew studying poetry would help you make, you know, sort of put into words sound. I mean, sound is a hard thing to describe, and to be able to really capture, sort of take a piano or a microphone and describe its qualities. And, you know, and I'm struck by the fact that I represented Steinway and Bösendorf for the Austrian and the German school of tone. And if you listen to old AKG microphones, or you listen to old Neumanns, guess what? The same adjective you'd use to describe them, describe Steinways and Bösendorfers. A Steinway is robust and full-bodied, and an old German tube amp is exactly that. A Bösendorfer is light and airy and clear, and an old AKG C12 is exactly that. So, you know, language, music, microphones, musical instruments, there's a cultural heritage and an underpinning, I believe, to the tone of a culture. And so, you know, that segues into, you know, I mean, I built a microphone called the Hamburg edition and a microphone called the Vienna edition, and they pay homage to old German and old Austrian tone qualities. Not beyond just microphones. It's about a tone color. So, you know, is that poetry or just succinctness, or, you know, being able to, I think poetry, the essence is to be able to condense into the fewest amount of words some powerful passion or, you know, feeling. And so, yeah, I mean, I was flattered by the compliment, and I think I try to bring that same marrying the artist to the instrument. When somebody calls me up and says, I'm a singer, I need a microphone, you know, and they maybe have sibilance and nasal qualities and harshness that they want to get rid of, and that's where that old German tube mic would just fit them to a T. Or they may have a beautiful full tone and richness and quality that they want to have shine through, and that's where that old Austrian tube mic would benefit them. So, you know, this all kind of comes together in a strange, poetic way.
Well, you talked about, you know, matching up performers with the right kind of piano. How hard is it to match up a microphone with an artist?
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm reading a Gearslutz post where somebody says, oh, that's nonsense. You don't need a different mic for a different genre or a different person. One mic should be able to do everything. And I so totally reject that idea. I mean, you know, jazz musicians want bright pianos, and classical musicians want more sonority and singing qualities, not as percussive, more, you know, I mean, just to say a piano is both a stringed instrument and a percussion instrument, and they have those two characteristics. In a microphone situation, you know, sometimes I don't know. I mean, there's this rap singer by the name of KG, Killer Grooves, and he's one of the sort of the godfathers of hip hop. And I ended up sending him 4 different microphones, and he picked the last one, I would have thought. But very often I can listen to a CD or an MP3 or a sound file somebody will send me, and I can at least narrow it down to 2 colors. I mean, we build in our custom shop 5 different flavors of microphones, and we feel like they really can, you know, have enough difference that we can accommodate probably 90% of all singers with those 5 microphones. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, and it's one every day I get up excited to try to do, because you know, we recently worked with the Manhattan Transfer, and they picked, if I can use a flavor, it's something that was referencing a U47. I worked with Lincoln Brewster, and he had tried several microphones, and he liked the flavor of a U67. But by golly, KG, I mean, he liked that 251 flavor, which is bright, and you never would have thought this guy, 300-pound, full-bodied, deep-voiced guy, would want this microphone. This really one would use. There's an old adage: if you love her voice, you put her on a Elam 251. If she needs a little help, you put her on a U67 because it's warmer and sort of mellows out some of the issues of nasality or sibilance. KG told me, "Hey man, my voice is already fat. I don't need it to be any fatter." So, sometimes I can nail it, and sometimes I just throw up, a bunch of paint on the wall and see what sticks, because you really do have a very personal relationship, I think. And if you're a singer, the human voice is the most complex toned instrument of the entire orchestra. There's never, French horns sound pretty much like French horns and oboes like oboes, but the human voice can sound round like a French horn or tight like an oboe. And so that's where the fun is, really. That's the challenge.
Well, you talk about diversity with voices, and man, there's a lot of it. Has any artist ever inspired you to create a specific mic for them, or come up with this? Somebody's voice just stuck out to you, and you're like, wow, I'm going to try to accommodate that with something.
Well, we worked with Ray Charles on his last 3 albums, and I mean, I got a phone call every day almost from his engineer and talking about this exact thing. And the Ray sort of inspired me because he picked a mic that we had been building for a number of years called the TT, and it's very good stock. In fact, Eddie Kramer got a hold of one, and he just won't let go. He traveled the world with this Model TT. But when we heard Ray Charles, and in fact Manhattan Transfer originally recorded on the same mic, there was just something that I felt like I could do better, and that really kick-started the custom shop. So if you go to our website and you look at what we do, we have a series of microphones that are production mics. They're very good. They're all affordable. But I sort of said this one day. I actually got to talk to Ray Charles and Terry Howard on a sort of a conference call. Terry was his engineer. A great little quick story here. Terry Howard was Barbra Streisand's engineer for 5 years, and Barbara loaned him to Ray for the next 25 years.
That's a long loan.
Terry was my dear friend, and he called me just about every day during the Genius Loves Company project. And frankly, I had to say, we could do better for Brother Ray. I just felt like I could craft something that fit him like a glove. And that got us started on a 5-year quest, really, to actually take the 5 greatest historical vintage vocal mics and try to capture the essence of them, but not clone them, to sort of take that as a starting place. I mean, this is the thing that makes me crazy. There's a world of sort of clone mics out there, and I am a collector. I've been collecting guitars and microphones, even though I'm more a piano player. I've been collecting guitars and microphones for 40 plus years. And one of the things that I don't want is, if you plug in my beautiful 1954 U47, it's got a great tone. It's also got 30 dB of self-noise. And in this modern day of pristine recording, that's annoying. So I don't want to copy everything, including the warts. I'm saying that what I want to do is take this. It's an homage, not a copy. We started with the tone qualities, but we hired a rocket scientist from Australia to help us achieve this goal of creating the DNA of these remarkable historical mics, but then marrying that with modern technology so that it's super quiet, has more headroom, has just more frequency response. So forgot your question, but I mean, it was like, Brother Ray, we could do better, man. And the same thing with the transfer, Manhattan's transfer. I mean, the best voices on earth for jazz singers. And I thought, you know, this sounds good, but I just feel like it could sound better. And so, you know, Ray never lived to see the fruits of his inspiration, but the Manhattan transfer, you know, 5-6 years later, got the track on, they're doing their most recent album on one of our custom 47 mics. So, you know, to me, I mean, it's just a thrill to work with world-class vocalists and try to tailor, just like a fine tailor would. One time I actually had a suit of clothes custom tailored to me, and I went in first and he cut it, and then I went back and then he recut it, and it was like fine. He tuned it and then he fine-tuned it, and I mean, I think that's sort of we want to do that for singers. We have ways of taking even our custom mics and fine-tuning them a little extra for special clients, and you know, that's a joy.
You know, I got to ask you, what was the first mic that you developed to help jumpstart your business, and maybe who was the first big entertainer, you know, that used your mics that helped endorse the brand?
Right, and the original A51 that we introduced in 1998. This is our 15th year. I'm trying to think who really got this thing going. It was the two artists that really, oddly enough, got us kickstarted with Kathy Mattea, who was our first Grammy artist to endorse us, and she and her husband John Besner are just great true friends of mine, and then Patty Page. I had the most wonderful experience with Miss Patty. I mean, she's just a delight, and I mean, how many gold records? I think at the time she had more gold records than any female country artist ever, and we got one of our $200 mics. This is just phenomenal. She's at like RCA Studio B in Nashville, or one of those big studios, and she unloads the microphone locker, and she just can't find anything. I don't like that. No, I didn't like that. And so Mick Conley, who's another just great guy, he said, well, you know, I got this new mic. It's not very expensive, but let's just try it. And it was like, that was it. It's $200 microphone. Patty fell in love. And he called me up, and I said, wait a minute. My mom loves her. She's going to kill me. Let me send you one of my $1,000 microphones. Because I got this TT2 mic that, you know, ended up with Ray Charles and Manhattan. We sent it down to her. I got this call from Mick Conley, and he says, Larry, I don't know how to tell you this. She doesn't like it. She likes that $200 mic better. But hang on. Can we keep it to track guitars with?
You know, that's another great thing about your mics, and what you take so much pride in is, you know, having such a high quality in ADK, but not having the ridiculous price tag that normally is attached to mics of that quality.
Well, that was really another one of the things that it's big. I had this microphone collection, and sometime around the late 90s, the Wall Street Journal came out with an article about the collectability of vintage mics. And in one day, my U-47 went up $3,000, according to the Wall Street Journal. And I had a guy who was going to sell me a Telefunken Elam 251 for $9,000. It's way too much money. I was going to bite the bullet. All of a sudden, he said, no, I'm sorry, I read that same Wall Street Journal article. I called him the next day. I said, I'll buy it. I'm going to take it. He says, $15,000.
Oh, wow.
So it went up $6,000 in a day. So I just sort of got ticked off, and I went, it shouldn't ought to have to cost as much as an automobile to have a great vintage-sounding mic. And the average musician, the working musician, he ought to have a chance to get that sound without it. And there are years I don't take a dime out of this company. I mean, I pay myself $0, but I refuse to overprice these products because I want to be known as the Johnny Appleseed of microphones. I don't care. I mean, I made piles of money selling pianos, and you know, I can live on that probably for the rest of my life. But this is not about commerce. Really, it's about the community of artists and engineers that you know, this is the most fun job I have, because when I pick up the phone, you never know. It might be Patty Page. It was one day. It might be Ray Charles. You know, I get to talk with the people I grew up admiring, and you know, my son gets to go backstage at Paul McCartney concerts. I mean, how cool is that?
Oh, you can't get any cooler than that.
So they couldn't pay me enough money. You know, the perks are just phenomenal.
You know, you might have answered this question earlier, but as far as your microphones go, you have different mics for different uses, like vocal, instrument, studio, live performance. And I want our listeners to know how a proper microphone gauged for its specific purpose will greatly enhance the overall sound of a performance.
Well, and I think that's what sets us apart from just about every other microphone company, because we do it backwards. We don't sit there and go, what color should it be? Does it need to look like a cricket or some exotic animal? Does it need to hit this price point? We go backwards from what are we going to use it for? And so I build microphones. Let's say, for example, we've got a new series called Thor and Odin, and they're built for loud. I mean, Mark Isham endorsed the prototype of the Odin for trumpet. And I'm so thrilled. I just got a picture of Johnny Winter, who fell in love with it for his screaming guitar. And so we have three divisions, and I mean, if I could just sort of delineate them, the audiophile series are affordable, high-end microphones for the average home studio and pro studio, and some live sound. We're touring with Wynton Marsalis and Johnny Winter with some of these mics. And then the custom shop really are for what I call high-value lead instruments, whether it's lead vocal or some really highly prized track that you want. And then our 3 Sigma Audio is a different brand name, and that's choir and orchestra and live sound. And so what we, you know, it's almost confusing, and I'm really working on getting the website to where you can go there and say, I play guitar, what do I do? And the problem is, I play guitar too, so there's not one mic, there's like 5 different mics that work on guitar. You know, and that sort of segues to my Marty Stewart thing, because Kathy Matea's engineer of 25 years got loaned to Marty Stewart for the last 5 years. And Marty was getting ready to do Ghost Train in Studio B, RCA Nashville. And we sent him a series of the 3 Sigma Lollipop mics. And they're based again on the same custom shop series of the 5 historical great mics. And, you know, Hank Williams Sr. gave Johnny Cash this 1940-something pre-war D41 or D45, one of 92 ever made. And Johnny Cash gave it to Marty Stewart as a wedding present when he married Johnny's daughter. And so we've got this, what I would guess is $1 million guitar. And, you know, Marty fell in love with this little C12 flavored lollipop. But when he got time to play this fingerstyle Taylor that was a mahogany side and back, not rosewood, he found that the 67 flavor, worked better. So the whole idea behind 3 Sigma is it's a modular series. You can unscrew the lollipop cap and swap the capsule, so you can get the different flavors all in one package. And so what we find, let's say just for guitars, electric guitars, we've got Odin. It can take 150 dB. It's got a 3-way color changer. So for a guy like Johnny Winter, where he cranks his treble to 11, you flip that in mellow mode, and it's the perfect match. But, you know, if on the other hand, you had somebody playing a jazz guitar and it was just a really dark sound, you can flip it to neutral or even brilliant. But acoustic guitar players, for affordability, we have a mic we call the A6. A acoustic 6 string. I mean, that's a little inside joke, but the A6 is like the best all around $250. It'll record guitars till the sun don't shine. I mean, it's just a great little mic. So, you know, application-specific microphones is what we in-house call it, where we go, singers, here we go. Trumpet players, saxophone, piano. I mean, we just recorded Chick Corea at Lincoln Center. I mean, I got to feel like that 42-year loop came back, because 42 years after I recorded Chick Corea live at the Jazz Workshop in Boston, he's at Lincoln Center with a pair of my 3 Sigma lipstick little pencil mics on the Steinway Grand. And I just felt like, man, I could die tomorrow. I did my job.
Are you working on any other products right now that might be released in the near future?
Yeah, we have 2 new products over the next 2 years. There's going to be the bookends to our audiophile, what I call entry level, but they're high-end entry level mics, and that's called we're going to do Alpha and Omega. Alpha will be our least expensive little Swiss Army mic, and Omega is going to be a multi-pattern tube mic. And then we've got what I call the VX, which is valve, which is European language for tube, X for XFO, which is shorthand for transformer. It's a head amp that fits the 3 Sigma model. So we got those. That's due out before the year is over, so that our modular mics will have 3 op amps. I'm getting tired. 3 head amps, which are some people call the stem or the body of the mic, and then we have 8, and eventually we'll have 10 capsules, small and large diaphragm. We call it a hybrid system because it uses both. You can flip large or small diaphragm mics on the top of 3 different, eventually by the end of this year, 3 different head amps. And one head amp is transformerless, super low noise. One head amp is transformer coupled and super high SPL. It'll take 150, even 156 dB. And then VX is the tube version, so that the people that want to do vocals have and that way, wow, you take the VX and you go, well, I got a singer coming out, I don't know what they sound like. Well, you got a C12 flavor, the LM251 flavor, a U47, U67, and M49. You've got the 5 historical microphone flavors, and you just unplug it, unscrew it, screw a different one on, and find the one that fits. My old saying is, Picasso had more than one paintbrush, and so should you.
Well, Larry, where can people go as far as website to learn about, your product line and purchase your merchandise?
Yeah, I mean, we're sold through dealers globally. ADKMIC.com, ADK Mic with a C.com is the website. And if you scroll down just about to where the bottom of the page is, you can click on the 3 divisions and the parts store. It's all down at the bottom. But our products are, like I said, they're online, available. You can't find them in the big box houses because I've sort of avoided that. But there's a bunch of, I'm an independent musician and an independent manufacturer, and I try to support independent music stores. So, I can, we've got them listed at the site, and I'm a phone call away. I mean, people get so shocked that the founder of the company will spend a half hour talking about their voice or their guitar or their saxophone. And
well, that just shows, the passion you have for your product.
Well, I have a passion for music, and to me, the idea is the microphone just shouldn't get in the way, and the whole it's the lens of the sound camera, and if you don't have people talk about their computers and their new this and that, and if you don't have the lens right, it doesn't matter what kind of film you use.
Well, Larry, I appreciate you taking time out of your day, joining us on the show. We really appreciate it to have someone of your, stature. On our show.
I'm just a musician who's trying to make a difference, and I'm very grateful for you as well.
Well, you have a nice night, sir. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
All right, bye-bye.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.